Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Elite Sports Show. It has been a while. It's been about a month. Just different personal life things go on, and for both of us, I was sick for a couple of weeks, and he's working two jobs right now. So just kind of some different things, but we're back, and hopefully we are back for the long haul on a more consistent basis, dude. First of all, just to tell you, I've missed you, and I'm super glad to be back.
Yeah, it's exciting to get back and actually get to talk some sports. Don't get to do that a whole lot, with my job and besides high school sports, which I love too. But um, yeah, besides you, I don't have too many people that actually talk about MLB or college football or basketball or all the major sports. So it's fun to get back to it and talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. I've missed it. We haven't, unfortunately, with our busy lives. We not only have we not been able to get on here and do this, but we haven't really talked as much, just in general lately. But um, I know I've had stuff going on with my church life and you working and things, and it's just life gets busy and sometimes life gets unpredictable, and that's kind of I think what's happened for the both of us a little bit in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Thankful if you're noticing something a little bit different. We are. I've talked about this on Roundabout Sports a little bit. We are now a part of the Interstate 70 Sports Media outlet. Thankful for them giving us this opportunity. And you can still find us on all of our personal outlets: TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, etc. All of that's the same. So super excited and thankful to them. Wanted to give them a shout out. But hey, it's been a month. Let's talk some sports. How about it?
Yeah.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
So the college football landscape has kind of been crazy. The preseason number one and number two teams are out. We are out of the polls right now. We are going to talk about one of those two teams later on in the show. But there's a big game in the SEC this Saturday. It's going to kick off the day on ESPN. It is the number 8 Alabama Crimson Tide. They go to Como to take on the number 14 Mizzou Tigers. That game is on ESPN. It's at 11 a.m. Central Time. Of all the games, Red River is Saturday. Michigan plays USC, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Ohio State, Illinois is Saturday as well. Of all of the games this coming weekend, I think this Alabama Mizzou game is probably the one that intrigues me the most.
Yeah, I hadn't had a chance to look at the whole TV schedule, but they must have a heck of a game in prime time because you're talking about number 8 against number 14 at Mizzou, which is a great atmosphere, and they're playing at 11, which is a big slot too. Don't get me wrong; it kicks off the day. That's usually a big game, but I just thought that was kind of interesting as we got on. I saw the time and was like, man, there must be a heck of a matchup in the evening. But yeah, I'm excited about this game. Mizzou's put themselves in a position where if they win this game, they're going to enter the top 10 and be a legitimate contender for the SEC title. And I think even if they lose this game, I still think they're in position to make the playoff, depending on how they finish the season. But they have a huge opportunity in front of themselves if they can beat Alabama at home.
Yeah, for sure. Here's the deal, and we've kind of talked about my issues with Eli Drinkowitz. But say what you want, he's a good football coach. He has put Mizzou in this position now a few years in a row. It feels like to me, Jordan, they've had this game almost at this time in the season every single year, and they haven't been able to get over the hump yet. I remember 2 years ago it was at home. It was against LSU. LSU was around, they were a top 10, 15 team. They lost. LSU drove down the field and scored not a last second touchdown, but a pretty late in the game touchdown to win that game. Last year, they lost a game. I can't. It's escaped me who it was to. But I'll say this, and I'm actually looking for the primetime spot so I can tell you. Georgia and Auburn is ESPN's primetime spot.
What about ABC?
ABC, that is it. ABC. They are on ABC.
Oh, okay.
ESPN's primetime spot is Florida and Texas A&M. So
yeah, okay, I can see that.
There's that, but this is Mizzou's chance. I'm going to tell you, I think with the way that this season has gone, this is a game, and they're really high on Alabama right now. Alabama has played well in the last few weeks. I would take it one step further. I think Mizzou enters the top 5 with a win this weekend. I've been saying I've got friends that are Mizzou fans. I have one friend specifically that is a Mizzou fan that might be the most anti-Mizzou fan I've ever met in my entire life. And I've been trying to tell him, I told him when they beat Kansas, listen, this team is the real deal. Like, this team is the real deal. I think I am so impressed with Mizzou. I don't know. I mean, but from Bo Prabula, who has come on, and listen, we wondered if this guy could throw the football. Boy, can he throw the football. To tell you how well he can throw the football, he's got 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's only thrown 3 picks. He is 110 for 145. The guy can sling the rock, okay? And he's got Ahmad Hardy, who is at the tailback position, who, let's face it, this guy's a Heisman candidate right now. Ahmed Hardy is. I mean, he has run all over every single team he's faced. It is incredible. He's averaging 7.3 yards per carry, which is nuts. I'm telling you, man, and I'm not saying anything about Alabama. I'm not saying Alabama can't win this game, and we're going to talk about them in just a second, because they've been impressive too since that loss to Florida State. Mizzou's the real deal. They are. How in the world they got this line of Bama -5.5? I have no idea. This game is in Columbia, Missouri. You know it. I know it. That place will be bumping on Saturday morning. They'll line up Friday night, most likely, ready to rock and roll for this game.
SEC Nation's going to be there too.
Yep, SEC Nation is going to be there. I don't understand this Bama -5.5 line that they've thrown out for us. I know the over-under is 54.5, which makes sense. I could see this being a high-scoring game. I want to get your opinion real quick on this matchup from a football standpoint. What stands out to you as who's going to have the advantage? Because Alabama is a more pass-heavy team. I mean, they're leading, or Alabama's leading rusher has 182 yards on the season, which is not a lot compared to Ahmed Hardy, who has 6 times that. I don't know. I almost, when I talk about this game, I almost want to talk about Mizzou as the favorite. Like, I hate to ask you the question, what does Mizzou have to do to beat Alabama? What does Alabama have to do to beat Mizzou? Is kind of where I'm at with this game.
Yeah, well, you know me as a person and a coach, and you've heard me say over and over again that, you worry about yourselves, you try to execute and do what you do best, and everything else will take care of itself. And I think that's what Mizzou has to do. I think they have to keep winning ball games the way they have. Obviously, it doesn't matter what sport you play. Everybody can play better on defense. They're going to have to play good defensively. But I think in order for them to win this game, they're going to have big quarterback play. Their quarterback's going to have a good game. Petrula, I probably butchering his name, but he's going to have a big game. And they're going to have to keep Alabama at bay. Alabama's played well since that first loss, and that Florida State loss is not nearly as bad as it was the first week. And so I give them a lot of credit to kind of shutting some people up. And it's one of those things, they put themselves in a position to where, yeah, a loss to Mizzou here would hurt a little bit in the playoff picture a little. But they've battled back, put themselves in position. Even if they were to lose this big game, Alabama's still going to be in the hunt with 2 losses. But I think I give Alabama the slight edge just because Mizzou has had this game in years past. I think we were kind of at this point last year with Georgia, with a chance to kind of get in the playoff picture, and lost. And it seems like the last several years we've had an opportunity. Mizzou has to really make some noise and really get into that championship playoff talk. And they just haven't been able to get over the hump with that big win. And so I think this is the best chance they've had to really stick it to the SEC blue bloods, if you will, and those rich SEC teams, kind of like Alabama, because Mizzou has only been in the SEC for probably 13, 14 years. First 2 years they played for the SEC championship, but since then it's just they haven't done much. I mean, they've had some good starts to some seasons. They've looked good at times, but I think this is their best shot to really be, like you said, a top 5 team and a team that might be talked about for the national title.
Yeah, last year they started the season 4-0 and then got absolutely blitzed at Texas A&M. They lost 4.
That's who it was. I'm sorry, Texas A&M. I said Georgia. I know one year we played Georgia and we might have been 6-0 or 6-1 and just got hammered. But yeah, I remember now Texas A&M. They had an opportunity there and it just did not go well. And so I think this is kind of the same deal. But I would say this Mizzou team this year is a lot better than last year's team.
Okay, so let's do some predictions here before we move on to this next game that we're going to talk about. Give me your prediction. I'll give you mine here in just a second. Give me a prediction and a score.
Even though I give Alabama a slight edge going this game because Mizzou hasn't been able to get over the hump in a big game like this, I say Mizzou wins in a tight one, 30-24, with Petrula having a big game.
I have got Mizzou again, but a little bit tighter. 28-24 is what I think. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to come down to a late play, maybe even a late interception. We've seen that in games, and we see that in games all the time. Your team is driving down the field. I'll never forget 2024, Michigan and Ohio State, Kyle McCord and Marvin Harrison Jr. pushing down the field, looking like Ohio State's going to get into the end zone and then kick the extra point to win the game. And Rod Moore intercepts him, and I ran around my house. I mean, it's a crazy things can change. I think it's 28-24 Mizzou. I think Mizzou officially gets over the hump, and I think they carry that win, and I think Mizzou's a playoff team, and I think Mizzou is a real threat. So there's my prediction there. Let's move on to another game, a night game on NBC. It's Big Ten Saturday night. Michigan and at Southern California. Michigan comes into this game at 4-1. I believe Southern California also comes into this game. USC comes into this game at 4-1 as well. They are coming off an off week and a loss to Illinois. At Illinois, they're back home. They've had the off week, or the bye week, I guess, as it's called. Okay. So the top of the Big Ten right now is Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon. Indiana and Oregon will play twice. Not play twice. We'll play this Saturday. And then Michigan is the fourth undefeated team in the Big Ten. A loss for USC puts them out of the conference title picture. most likely Oregon and Ohio State do not play in the regular season. Michigan and Oregon do not play in the regular season. So another loss for USC will very likely put them out of the Big Ten title hunt. For Michigan, though, they go back on the road. They beat Nebraska 3 weeks ago, 30-27 on the road. That was a game that, if you remember back 4 or 5 weeks ago when we had our last show, I told you that I thought Michigan was going to lose. If you remember that, I picked Nebraska to beat Michigan, even being a Michigan fan, because I didn't think Bryce Underwood was ready to go on the road and win, and he was. It's a little different animal. I do think playing at the Coliseum is a little bit different animal. Jaden Mayava has been phenomenal. He's thrown for 11 touchdowns. He's only thrown 1 pick. He has nearly 1,600 yards on the season so far. The question for me is, can a guy like Donovan McCulley, who had an excellent game against Wisconsin at home, can he go out and perform again? Because a lot of the issues that I saw that really bothered me as a Michigan fan was drop passes. Really, really good throws, really good balls thrown by quarterback Bryce Underwood that was just dropped for no reason. I'm telling you right now, for Michigan to have any chance to win this game, that cannot happen. You can't go into the Coliseum whenever, let's face it, Jordan, USC season is on life support. If you lose 2 games, especially lose 2 games in conference, and you don't have a chance to play for a conference title, you're done. You're out. I mean, if you're really telling the truth, I think Joel Klatt said it best. There's going to be some teams that 10-2 is not going to be good enough. And I think that USC is one of those teams. I think Michigan is one of those teams. The only way that 10-2 is good enough is if they beat Ohio State, but that's way down the line. Can Michigan handle the noise? Because, like I said, it's going to be different than it was in Lincoln for them a couple weeks ago. And can USC solve this defense? And I want to specify, it's more the secondary. It's Michigan's secondary that's the most dangerous. Their defensive line is coming along. I'm excited for this game. I want to get your thoughts, kind of what you see. Which I know you've watched a couple Michigan games, kind of what you've seen from them, and kind of what you think their outlook is. Because I think that if they win this game, they kind of pass a big test. But if they lose this game, I think it's going to raise a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think this is a team that was in transition last year. I'm a little higher on this Michigan team. Now, if they go in there and they lose to Southern Cal in a game that's similar to Oklahoma, Oklahoma's better than Southern Cal. But, I know me and you talked about that game. I mean, there was points during that game that Michigan could have took the momentum and possibly won that game. I feel like Michigan beat themselves at times against Oklahoma.
They did.
And in my opinion, with drop passes and whatnot, couldn't stop them on third down several times. If they have a game like that, then Southern Cal or USC will beat them. But I think it's only if they beat themselves. I think they just got to go in there and have a good, solid game, catch passes, move the chains, play good defense. I think this is you went from national title, you went to flashes of greatness last year, but they couldn't put it together, kind of put it together at the end. And then this year's team, young quarterback, they're young in other spots, but it almost feels like it's that young team that if they can get over the hump, they could possibly make some noise in the playoff. Yeah. But they're also, I think they're young enough that they can sabotage themselves as well by not playing up to their potential.
I think you're exactly right. Michigan does open as a -2.5 favorite. But I think you're right when you compare it to the Oklahoma game. I think the environment is going to be very similar But you're right. Can they get off the field on third down? There were a couple plays where they had Mateer dead to rights in Norman, and then he just pulled something out of his hat, and they couldn't stop. I will tell you this: Jayshon Barham has to wreak havoc on the USC. He has got to find a way to get into that USC backfield and stay there. And if he does, that's going to give Michigan a chance to win, because now that they've gotten Rod Moore back, they're deeper at the safety position. Their secondary is a lot better. It's a lot more experienced. Jayshon Barham has to make his presence known early and often. TJ Guy, the same thing. I think that there are ways that Michigan can win this game.
Well, let's face it, Underwood and Haynes. Is it Hayes or Haynes? I'm sorry.
Haynes, Justice Haynes.
Yeah. They've got to have a big game. Their offense runs through those two guys. Probably right. Haynes more than Underwood. And so look for USC. If they're able to stop the run, if they're able to stop the big play, then Michigan might be in trouble if they can stop it early. If Michigan gets out and they can run the football and they can open up the passing game, then they might put it on USC early, and it might not be a game. But that's the keys to the game to me early on.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I want to get your predictions here, and we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about another team that could not avert disaster. We're talking about Michigan and USC, who need this win to avert disaster. We're fixing to talk about a team that could not. I want to get your prediction for this game. Saturday night, again, at the Coliseum, USC and Michigan. Who you got?
I got Michigan. I think it's tied at halftime, 14-14. I think Michigan pulls away late. I'm taking Michigan 28-14 in USC, at USC.
I'm going to take Michigan 27-24. Dominic Zvada kicks a game-winning field goal.
Okay.
I think this thing is close throughout, but I do think Michigan finds a way to escape and move to 5-1. So because I want to clarify, I think this Michigan team is better now than they were in week 2. I think it's a similar environment. I think Michigan will be ready.
They'll definitely be better prepared for the atmosphere this time. Obviously they're not exactly the same. Norman's atmosphere and USC, which USC, do they still play at the Rose Bowl, I guess?
No, they play in the Coliseum.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Coliseum. So, there's going to be several thousand more people there. But I think the atmospheres are similar enough that, like I said, if Michigan doesn't play well early and they kind of get in their own way and get in their own head, that USC could keep it close and possibly win the game. But I also think Michigan has enough offensive firepower that if they play well, they could win by 2 touchdowns. I really believe that.
I agree with that. I think that I hope their receivers come out ready to go, ready to rock and roll, and I hope that they're able to get that win. We'll see what happens there. We talked about teams this weekend that are looking to avert disaster. Mizzou, of course, is looking to finally get over that hump and finally get out of the situation of like, oh man, we were right there, but we couldn't get over it. Obviously, USC, we talked about if they have a second loss in conference that effectively ends their season, and then Michigan as well with a loss would have to run the table and beat Ohio State to have a chance. And even then, we don't know if that would be enough.
I think it's harder for Michigan if they lose this game, obviously, because you got so much more of the season to go. Does Michigan play Indiana by chance?
They do not.
Okay, that's
they
good
don't
for
play
them.
Indiana or Oregon.
because Indiana and Oregon have both looked really well, obviously. Um, I wouldn't say that Michigan doesn't have a chance to make the playoffs if they lose this game, but I do agree with you. They will have to run the table. They'll have to run the table. I don't know what 2 losses, 10-2 or whatever looks like for the Big Ten championship game, but they'll have to run the table, and maybe they sneak in on the back end of the playoff. But if they win this game and they're still 4-1, 5-1, whatever they are, then I think they're in better shape leading up to the Ohio State game. I think they win out regardless, between now and the Ohio State game.
Right. I would agree with that. A team that was not unable to avert disaster this past weekend was Penn State. Goodness gracious. What in the world happened to Penn State, and how in the world did they lose to UCLA, who, by the way, has losses to UNLV and New Mexico? How does that happen? How do you let that happen if you're James Franklin? And I'm going to take it one step further. How is it Wednesday whenever this guy has proved that he cannot win big games? How is it Wednesday after you go to Pasadena and get freaking drilled? And this score right here, 42-37, is not as close as that game was. Like, that game was not as close as the score indicated. And I'm just going to say it. How does this guy still have a job? I mean, I don't understand it. And I'm not one to, like, call for people's jobs. I'm not that guy. But I will say this. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, this was a disaster.
Yeah. Well, and he's been there several years too. I mean, this is not one of those deals where, he's been there for 2 or 3 years. They had a couple of big years, and then this is just kind of a fluke season. Like you said, there's kind of a history there and a precedent under his watch that's been set that Penn State looks really good on paper, but when it gets into a tight spot, tight game to push their season forward, they're going to come up short. And unfortunately for them, the UCLA loss is about as bad as it gets.
Yeah, I mean,
because you go from almost having Oregon beat to losing that game, and now you've lost to UCLA. They have no chance at this point to make the playoff. I don't. I mean, unless they were able to pull off an Ohio State from last year, I just don't see a pathway for them to make the playoffs, let alone get in and make a run like Ohio State.
Well, I think that the problem with what happened to them is now they're out of the Big Ten tournament. They're out of the Big Ten title race. And because 2 losses, and you know this, it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough to get in. Mm-hmm. And they've eliminated themselves from contention. And 10-2, I don't care who they beat. I mean, they have to beat Ohio State now. They have to beat Ohio State now. But I don't care who else. Like, I don't care who you beat. You cannot lose. You cannot lose that game and then expect to be able to just get in. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and that's the problem. That's the problem with Penn State. And, I'm not a Penn State hater. I'm not. I mean, I'm not a fan of Penn State as far as, like, that's who I root for. But I don't have an issue with them. I know they work hard. I think James Franklin has done a pretty good job. But, I mean, you can't lose this game to UCLA. It's one thing. Oregon is Oregon. Oregon is a team that's been around. They've been there. They've done that. You can give Penn State a pass on that game because you lost to Oregon. I mean, let's face it. I mean, yeah, you probably should have won that game, but you kind of you let one slip away. If that was their only loss and they get to Ohio State and they lose and then somehow they get in, That's one thing. But you can't make it to the end of the season and have 2 losses, along with several other teams that are probably going to have 2 losses, and expect to get an at-large bid into the playoff. That's not going to happen.
Right.
That's why I say there's no pathway for Penn State to make it.
No, I completely agree. I think that their season effectively is over. I mean, now at this point, they're playing for a bowl game. I think that at this point, they're playing for a bowl game. I mean, obviously, you're hoping if you're Penn State for a New Year's Six bowl. It's tough for me to feel bad for them because they've done it to themselves. You can't go. I mean, I don't care if it's on the road or not. You can't go on the road and lose that game. You just can't.
No.
And they did, and now they are going to have to reap the benefits.
UCLA has been struggling. UCLA has not been relevant in football in probably 15 years, maybe longer. I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves. And so that loss is about as bad as it gets. And there's no sugarcoating it. There's no way around it. They didn't play well. Not only did you not play well, but you gave up 42 points to UCLA. 42 points to a team that's not very good.
Right.
And like I said, I'm not an expert on football. I can't sit here and draw up too many plays for you. I can't talk about coverage as much. I kind of know enough to watch it. I know enough to get myself in trouble, as the old saying will go. But it's kind of like in basketball, it'd be like this year's Michigan team, going to play. I don't know. I'm trying to think of somebody.
LaSalle.
Yeah, going to play LaSalle or somebody like that in a mid-major conference, giving up 97 points to them and saying, "Well, I wonder. Didn't see that coming." Well, that loss is going to hurt you. In basketball, that's going to be on your resume, and it's the same thing here. Not only did you lose to UCLA, but they scored 42 points on you. Right. And so I think they're irrelevant at this point. If they get to 10-2, they might have an outside shot, depending on how. But they're going to have a lot of other people, like the dominoes to fall. Like other big teams are going to have to lose games that they shouldn't lose to unranked opponents, and on the list goes on and on for them to make the playoff. Now, I'm like you. If they run the table and they look really good and they're 10-2 and they play in a New Year's Six bowl but not the playoffs, I could see that. But I don't see when we get to the end how they're going to get put past a 2-loss SEC team like maybe Ole Miss or somebody that's played really well but maybe just lost 2 games to 2 really good SEC teams.
No, I completely agree. I think that I think Franklin has probably been there long enough that he's not going to get fired mid-season.
No, but this could be the end. This year could be the end. Especially if they have, let's say they have 2 or 3 more losses. I think he's done. I mean, if he gets to 10-2 and they salvage this thing, then I could see them riding it out another year, and seeing how next year goes. But he's not. It's a year-to-year thing, in my opinion, at this point.
Yeah, and he's admitted it. He has admitted it. Like they've struggled in those matchup games. Those games where they haven't beaten Ohio State in forever. They haven't beaten Michigan in forever. A couple years ago, whenever at Michigan's national championship season, it was the same kind of deal as the Oregon game. It was a day game, if I'm not mistaken. It was the whiteout, and Michigan come in and ran the football down their throat and beat them. And now, they bounced back. It was a 14 playoff at that time. But, man, you can understand, like you said, you can understand an overtime loss, right? You can understand
especially to
Oregon. Even at home. Yeah.
It's a game they should have won. But you lost to Oregon, a top 5 team. Like, I mean, man, that, in my opinion, with 12-team playoff, if you make it to the end and you got one loss and it's Oregon, you're in.
Yeah, for sure.
You're in.
For sure.
And so as bad as that loss probably hurt for them and sucked, if they beat UCLA and they're going into this week and there's still only one loss and they somehow get to the end with the one loss being Oregon, then they're okay. But that's not reality. They lost to UCLA and they lost to them. It was a close game, obviously, 42-37. But you gave up way too many points. And it was on the road, right?
It was on the road, yes.
Yeah. To a team that hadn't been drawing very many people either.
But Jordan, I'll just tell you, this score was close, but Penn State had to come back. I mean, this score was 28 to, I believe it was 28-3 at one point. This game was. So that's why, like, whenever I first started, like, the score does not indicate how much of a spread this game was. I do want to talk just some on the field stuff just for a moment. Drew Aller goes 19 for 26, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he did take a sack. He did not throw a pick, which there is something you can take from that. Nico Iamaleava went 17 for 24, had 2 touchdowns. Here's the kicker. He ran for 128 yards and had 3 touchdowns of that variety. Penn State's defense was atrocious, and somehow their O-line was worse than their defense. Drew Aller ran for 78 yards. Not because it was designed run plays, but because he had to get out of the pocket and move around. Listen, every single time a game like this happens, we look at the quarterback, right? We look at the head coach and we look at the quarterback. Drew Aller, was he perfect? No, not at all. Drew Aller played a good football game on Saturday, but his offensive line and his defense let him down time after time after time after time, and that's why they lost the game. That was the offensive line. I mean, they weren't even there. It was like they didn't even show up to play football in Pasadena on Saturday. Anytime UCLA wanted to get to Drew Aller, they were able to get to him. Fortunately for Aller, he was able to move around in the pocket, avoid the sack, create some run plays and things like that. But their defense on the other side, man, Nico has not been great since transferring out of Tennessee, but he looked like the first half in the Ohio State game last year at Tennessee, and he looked like the old Nico Iamaleava. I am so sorry. I cannot pronounce his name. And, I mean, UCLA's season is over, too, from a college football playoff perspective, right? They're 1-4. Best they could finish is 8-4. You're not getting in the postseason at 8-4. I don't care who you beat. I don't care if your 8 wins are against the top 4 in the Big Ten and the top 4 in the SEC. It ain't happening. It's just not. But I mean, this could be a catapult game for a guy, and maybe this kind of turns the UCLA program around if they're able to combat that emotional high that comes with this territory. You know this. You know sports. You've been around it, and it happens at all levels. How often do you see it? You have a big win against a team that you shouldn't beat, or even maybe it's just a team that maybe you're pretty evenly matched and it's a big-time game, and you come out and you find a way to scratch and claw and win, and then you come out the next night and have a letdown game. I mean, you see it all the time. So I think that this could be a catapult game for the Bruins, a program changer, so to speak. Or it could just be an outlier. But I just kind of wanted to talk some on the field stuff. Penn State has a lot to clean up. They are not off this week. They play at Northwestern, but Northwestern and UCLA are about the same caliber of team. So I would say that it's a for sure bounce back, but you never know. You never know in college football. We talked a little bit about a game a minute ago We just kind of skimmed over it. I do want to talk about it for just a second. Probably the biggest game of the week. I know I said that Mizzou and Alabama was the most intriguing, but Oregon and Indiana are going to play at 2:30 in that CBS time slot that used to be for the SEC, that's now for the Big Ten. Oregon's number 3. Indiana is number 7. This is at Autzen Stadium. This is a game that if it was in Bloomington, I would actually probably pick Indiana. That Oregon crowd and environment is always crazy. I think that Kurt Cignetti, as good of a coach as Cignetti is, he's really bad to kind of open his mouth and stick his foot in it a little bit. Cignetti he said some things and made some comments that have been kind of petty, and teams have used that as bulletin board material. But I know Dan Lanning is kind of a guy that is a little bit similar in that. Great quarterback matchup. Between Dante Moore and Fernando. I cannot think of his last name. I don't want to say it wrong. Fernando Mendoza is his last name, or his name. A great quarterback matchup, kind of similar style teams. I'm going to pick Oregon in this game. I'm going to say 28-21. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think this is a game, and I would be interested to get your perspective here. This is a game. This is one of the few matchups in the Big Ten that has the potential to set up for a rematch in the Big Ten championship game, actually, because Indiana can lose to Oregon and then beat Ohio State. I believe Ohio State and Indiana is in Bloomington. Let me look that up just real fast so I don't tell you wrong. No, I'm sorry. Indiana and Ohio State do not play each other. So, actually, with that being said, essentially the loser of that game likely is out of the Big Ten title race. So scratch what I was saying before. I do think it's going to be an exciting game. It's one of those matchup games where I think anybody could win. I'm really intrigued by this one. There's about 3 or 4 games all in, and I'm super excited. They never do this, but there's like 4 games all in different time slots that I'm actually going to get to sit down and watch this weekend and not have to worry about, flipping back and forth. But anyway, I'm going to say Oregon 28-21 in this game. I think Dante Moore is going to have a great game. They were off last week. I think that crowd in Eugene is going to welcome him back with open arms after that wonderful performance in the whiteout game at Penn State. I think they are able to win this game, but Indiana is a very, very, very legit football team. I think that they can get to the Big Ten title game if Michigan beats, if Michigan was to beat Ohio State or something like that. Like I think even if they lose on Saturday, there's still a route for them to get to the title game. And maybe even win it. I think that Indiana will be a playoff team. I think even with a loss, they go 11-1. So yeah, I think this is just going to be a great football game. I don't think anybody's season is on the line necessarily, but yeah, 28-21. Oregon is my pick there.
Yeah, this is a spot in the Big Ten conference that kind of like you see in the SEC a lot, that no matter who wins or loses this game, it's not going. It'll be a little bit bigger for the team that wins, but it's not going to kill you if you lose the game. Unless you just fall off after that and have a couple more losses. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be 42-38. I'm going to take Oregon just because they're at home. I'm like you. If it was at Indiana, I would probably flip that. But I think the offenses are going to go crazy. 2 high potent offenses, and I think Oregon edges Indiana out 42-38. And like I said, like you, I mean, it's exciting that the big games kind of line up like one after the other this weekend, not overlapping each other. So you could legitimately watch Mizzou play Alabama, flip over to Oregon and Indiana, watch it all the way through, and so and then move on to the 6 o'clock games. But yeah, this is exciting for the Big Ten, and like I said, whoever wins is going to be favorite going forward, and whoever loses is they'll be disappointed, but they're not going to. I don't think it affects their playoff chances at all.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm super excited for this game. The only thing that I wish it is the only thing is it's at the exact same time as Red River, and there is a story going around here about, and I want to just, because Oklahoma, we talked about them a little bit earlier with them whenever they played Michigan. I think Oklahoma is a very, very good team. I think they are a top 5 team in the country, maybe even a top 3 team in the country. I really, really, really like the Sooners when they're at full strength. John Mateer did have surgery on his throwing hand, but there's a rumor, and I want to give credit where it's due. I actually heard this on the Joel Klatt podcast. I listen to him. I have a lot of respect for him as a football mind and as a just a good football guy. There is a rumor that John Mateer was in a Chipotle and told a random guy that he was ready to go and is going to suit up and play Saturday in the Red River rivalry between Oklahoma and Texas.
I don't doubt that.
And that's a game maybe we should have talked about a little bit, but it's tough to pick out 7 to 10 games because we're going to talk about baseball for a few minutes too. But
Texas is in a bad spot too. I mean, Texas is, they're not. They've fallen out of the top 25. I don't see a pathway for them to make the playoff either. They're kind of having a disappointing year. That happens to teams. Unfortunately for them, I think that just talking about Texas real quick. I think that Arch Manning has played hurt a little bit. I think they've kind of hid that a little bit, or have kind of been vague about his status. Kind of saying he's healthy when he's not. And I think that they've just underperformed, and so otherwise that would be a game that you would talk about and would be on everybody's radar because usually it's a top 25 matchup, but Texas is just not there this year.
Yeah, and honestly, whenever Oklahoma beat Michigan, we thought that game might be like a top 5 matchup, or a top 10 matchup. Yeah. But Texas has just struggled. Like you said, I could see that where they're maybe hiding some things with Arch Manning and kind of not being clear on that. But either way, it is going to happen. If Texas loses, their season is kind of similar to Penn State, kind of similar to teams like USC. If they lose this game, their season is over, effectively, if it's not already. And
the only chance they have is to beat Texas would have to win on out. They're going to have to beat Oklahoma this weekend, and they're going to have to win out to have any kind of shot.
I agree with that. They got to run the table. Yeah. So there's our football talk. We've spent almost an hour on that. Let's wrap this thing up with some baseball. Of course, October baseball is in full swing. The NLDS, ALDS is going on right now. Aaron Judge finally showed up in a postseason game as the Yankees did win tonight, 9-6. I hope you didn't plan to watch that because if so, I just spoiled it for you. My bad.
They're still playing.
Oh, they're still playing?
Yep.
I thought I saw where it went final. My bad.
No.
Either way.
Yeah, Yankees got the bases loaded, 2 outs in the 8th.
Anyway, let's talk some baseball here. The Dodgers are up 2-0 on the Phillies. The Mariners are up 2-1 on the Tigers. Of course, whenever this game goes final, the Yankees will still be down 2-1 to the who are they playing? Good Lord, I just drew a blank.
Blue Jays.
To the Blue Jays. And the Brewers are up 2-0 on the Cubs. So I want to ask you first, who's your pick? Who's your pick from the National League and the American League? And then I want to talk about some like postseason awards. I really want to get your opinion on Cal Raleigh and Aaron Judge in that AL MVP race. If you had to pick based on the way things are going right now, who's more in the World Series?
That's tough. I think the Mariners and the American League have looked the most impressive. Now, I know the Blue Jays absolutely destroyed the Yankees in the first 2 games. I've watched a little bit and kept up with the score of this Yankees game and Blue Jays game tonight. If the Yankees can close it out, I feel like they've stolen a little bit of the momentum. But obviously they got a long way to go to win the series. And I like the Brewers. I think in the National League, the Brewers have looked the most impressive. Cubs jumped on them early twice in a row, and I think they tied it up in the bottom of the first. So, like, nothing really affects them. I think they got the best pitching. They got the best secret weapon in the game in Mizorowski, I think. They can use him however they want. They used him early in the game last night. He got several big outs for him. And I could be wrong. We'll see what happens the rest of this week. Tigers are very capable of coming back and beating the Mariners. But if I had to pick right now tonight, I think it's Mariners, Brewers in the World Series, and somebody's going to get their first World Series championship in franchise history.
Yeah, I actually agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that did you say Mariners, Brewers? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I agree with the Brewers. I actually think it's going to be the Blue Jays out of the American League. I want to ask you this just real quick because you kind of touched on it. With the Tigers being down 2-1, they have a day off, correct? They have a day off, right?
No, they play tomorrow.
They do play tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me look at this here. Yep, they do. They play tomorrow. Do you, even if maybe you don't get as much out of him, do you throw or do you pitch Tariq Skubal tomorrow and maybe see if you can get 4 or 5 out of him? Or do you wait and hope that you're able to push it to a game 5 and pitch him in game 5?
Yeah, let me see who they got starting tomorrow. They got Casey Mize going. He looked pretty good in the game 1. And they won that game. I hold Tarek. I hold Skubal as long as I can tomorrow. Mariners looks like Miller going. Bobby Miller, I think.
Bryce Miller.
Bryce Miller, I'm sorry. I would say if you're on the road and you're trying to get it back to Detroit, then I think you pitch Skubal in 3 days rest. But Casey Mize is sitting there at 14-6, 3.87 ERA on the year. He's pitching at home. He pretty much shut the Mariners lineup down last game for the most part. I only throw Skubal if I have to. But I don't know if they would want to bring him out of the bullpen either. That's a tough one, but I think they're in a good spot being at home. I roll with Mize and see if he can't save Skubal for game 5. Because Skubal pitched game 2, and so it's not even 3 days rest at this point. It's like 2 days rest, And so I think even if he pitched on Friday in a game 5, he's still going to be on short rest. So,
yeah.
Well, no, he would be. It would be a regular start for him, based on the on. I think he pitched on Sunday, um, and so that's what I do. Uh, but I do think it goes to a game five. I think Tigers do get the win tomorrow, but I think the Mariners win it in five. I thought this was a 5 game series to begin with, and it's kind of shaping up to be like that.
This is a series that I'll tell you the truth. I really, really, really wish, man, that this would have been in like the ALCS or something like
Yeah.
that, and they gotten 7 games out of this thing. Yeah. So, and we'll wrap this up with one question.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the American League MVP? Is it Aaron Judge or is it Cal Raleigh?
I mean, I've debated on this. I've listened to other people debate on this. If you break it down by statistics, I think technically Aaron Judge should probably win the award. But if you talk about the historical significance of Cal Raleigh's season, the fact that he's a catcher, and not only did he produce these types of offensive numbers, but he caught a majority of their games and has to run a pitching staff and call a game at the same time. So, in my opinion, even though Aaron Judge, you could probably give it to him and not have much of an argument, but when you hit 60 home runs as a switch hitting catcher, and carried your team and put them on your back and put them in a position that they haven't been in 24 years, I think Cal Raleigh has to be the MVP, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I always go back to the argument of, and this might not make total sense to you. What is the MVP award? Is it best or is it most valuable? Is that the same thing?
Well, that's what makes it. That's what makes this year so hard, because you could argue that. I mean, it's obvious if the Yankees don't have Aaron Judge, they're not where they're at tonight, with an opportunity to hopefully in their position to force a game five. They have 2 outs in the ninth right now. Looks like they probably are going to finish this thing off. But you can say the same thing about the Mariners, and I think that's why you're going to have arguments on both sides, even after they vote and even after it comes in who the MVP is, which I think they've already voted, to be honest with you. But after the results come out in November, shortly after the World Series, there's still going to be an argument.
Right.
You can argue that Judge had the best statistical season, minus home runs.
Right.
He leads in everything else. But was he the most valuable? But you could also come back and say, yeah, he is the most valuable. The Yankees wouldn't be where they're at without him. Well, neither would the Mariners without Cal Raleigh. So it's a toss-up. It really is. I'm okay with whoever gets it. I think some fans and some analysts would not be, because I think there's some out there that are dead set that Cal Raleigh should get it because of the historical season that he has had, and the fact that, yeah, he trails Aaron Judge in a few categories, but it's not a wide gap either.
Right.
A few years ago, you could argue that Ohtani with the Angels had a better statistical season than Aaron Judge, but Aaron Judge hit 62 home runs, and had a tremendous season as well, and he got the MVP. And
Right.
so I really honestly think that that's where we're at. I think Cal Raleigh, in my opinion, I think he gets it. I'm going to be a little surprised if he doesn't get the MVP.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say, too, that game did just go final. New York wins it 9-6.
Yeah, I think we're headed to a game 5 in that series. it depends on the starting pitching. You're only as good as your next day's starting pitching.
Yep.
So I mean, they could come out tomorrow and get blown out by the Blue Jays again and be a moot point. But I do think for the time being, the Yankees have stolen some momentum in that series.
Hey, and there are 4 baseball games tomorrow on television. At 2:00, the Mariners and the Tigers play. The Brewers Cubs play at 4. At 6, you got the Blue Jays and the Yankees, and then the nightcap, the Phillies and the Dodgers.
Yeah.
So it should be an exciting day of baseball again. I'm going to tell you, and this isn't really about anything team specific. I kind of checked out on Cardinal baseball about the deadline, to tell you the truth. Football season was coming up. Of course, I've got a ton to be excited about when it comes to Michigan basketball. So hopefully anyway. So I kind of turned the page. But man, this postseason, I texted you last night. We were kind of talking a little bit. I was like, this has been a fun postseason. This has been a fun. The wild card series were all great. Like the ALDS and NLDS have been good, except for the Brewers and Cubs have kind of been, lopsided a little bit. So I'm just like, I'm really like, I enjoy at times, and this is the one thing I'll say, every single year, I want Michigan to win the college football playoff, and I want them to win the NCAA tournament, and I want the Cardinals to win the World Series, right? But and I want to get your thoughts on this, and this is more like a sports generalization thing than anything else. Like after the sting of the loss wears off, and it takes a few days. For me, sometimes it takes a little longer than a few days, but after the sting of that loss wears off, it's kind of nice to be able to just watch and not really care, Like, I don't know how you feel about that, but.
Yeah, I mean, I can watch it. Me and you, we're not going to get into it, but me and you have talked about my feelings about the Dodgers and my feelings towards them. I mean, that's a discussion for another day, maybe some off-season baseball stuff. But so there's some things about the postseason just because I've watched about every inning of every game at some point. And so, there's some things that probably aggravate me a little bit more than they do you. But for the most part, I've been able to sit back and just kind of watch it like you. I didn't turn the Cardinals off as quickly as you did. I probably watched them a lot longer than I probably should have. I got more and more aggravated. That series going into Seattle, they still had a legitimate shot to possibly make the playoffs, and ended up getting swept. Could have won all 3 games, but got swept. And I'm kind of getting into the Cardinals now, but kind of aggravated me that we did nothing at the trade deadline, and yet we were there with about 10, 12 days left to go in the season with a chance to make playoffs and didn't because we did nothing at the deadline.
Right.
But what I'm getting at is your point of once that sting wears off, once I realized that they weren't going to make the playoffs, which I pretty much knew after they got swept by Seattle that they weren't. Now I know mathematically they still had a shot, and technically halfway through the Giants series, they still, unbelievably, as bad as the second half went, they mathematically still had a shot.
Yeah.
Halfway through that Giants series. But once I kind of turned the page on that, it's like, okay, I can kind of watch these last few games and see like who does well, see how our pitchers finish the season, which for a couple of them wasn't great. But you kind of get excited for the postseason, and we've had some great games. And like you said, outside of the Brewers Cubs, where the Brewers have just kind of dominated so far, Phillies and Dodgers series has been really good. The Dodgers are up 2-0, but the games have been close. So that series in particular wouldn't surprise me if somehow the Phillies were able to go on the road and win a couple of games. I have a feeling that there's going to be at least one series, either that one or the Cubs and Brewers, that will end tomorrow. I don't think we make it to all 4 series being 5-game series, but I think we at least have 2, maybe 3, before we get ready for the LCS matchups.
So I know we weren't going to we aren't gonna go into your vitriol and disgust toward the Dodgers, but I have to tell on you a little bit here. Last night I text you as soon as that game is over, that Dodgers and Phillies game is over. I'm like, man, that was a great game. The Phillies had the tying run on second base, or was it third? They have him on second or third.
Nobody out, runner on second with a chance to tie the game, couldn't get him in.
And I text you, I'm like, man, that was still a great game. And you're like, nope, the Dodgers need to lose.
Yeah. Like I said, I would like to, when we get into the off season after the World Series and whatnot, I would like to get more of that because it goes more than just because sometimes you don't like a team because they're good, right?
Right.
That's part of it. But part of it is how they do it too. And so we can get into that during the off season. But my hatred for them, I shouldn't say hatred because we're talking about baseball here. My dislike for them runs a little bit deeper than just, oh, they're really good and I don't like it when they win, Yeah.
Hey, listen, you can say hatred. I will tell you right now. I tell people all the time, there are 3 things in this world I hate. And in this order, it's the devil, it's Ohio State football, and Michigan State basketball. That's it. Those are the only 3 things that I hate.
And this last thing I'll say about the Dodgers, and give them just a little tidbit of what we might talk about in the offseason. But part of my problem with them is the Cardinals too, because how many times have we made trades that have helped the daggum Dodgers, and we're still seeing it this year with Tommy Edman. So so we'll get into that later.
Although
part of my hatred for them is caused by the Cardinals.
Tommy Edman almost gave the game away last night with that throw to first base.
He did. But he also helped to win a World Series last year too. So
he did. He was the NLCS MVP, wasn't he?
I believe so.
This has been a lot of fun. Super glad to be back in the saddle, so to speak, and looks a little bit different, I know, but it's been really exciting. Been glad to be back on here with you guys. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Interstate 70 Sports Media. Follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. I've been really active on Facebook here in the Twitter too, but really been trying to make a concerted effort to be active on the Facebook side of things now. Having trouble getting the Instagram up and going because I'm gonna be honest with all the pictures and stuff like that. I'm not great with that, but follow us everywhere you like social media because we are there. And I'm super glad to be back, and it's been a good show. So hopefully
should be able to come back next Tuesday as well. Maybe a later recording, but we should be able to knock that out next Tuesday and post it the next day. And so plan is to be consistent, and I'm talking more about myself than Austin, but plan is to be more consistent and have days where we can at least fit it in. It might not be the same recording night, but we're going to try to crank these out every week if we can from here on out.
For sure. Well, again, guys, this has been the Elite Sports Show. He's Jordan Ellsworth. I'm Austin Bradley. I'll see you guys tomorrow night, Wednesday night, on Roundabout Sports with Jeremy Karp. And other than that, it's been fun. We'll see you later.
See you guys.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for watching tonight's episode of the Elite Sports Show. If you like what you saw, feel free to follow the link in the description and subscribe to our channel, the Elite Sports Show Clips. There you will find all sorts of clips and separate segments from our full-length shows. Also, don't forget, subscribe to Interstate 70 Sports Media on all of your social media platforms. And don't forget to follow the Elite Sports Show on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and Threads. We'll see you in the next one.